My parents destroyed my wedding reception because my sister threw a tantrum. So I vanished without a trace and let them discover I'd been declared legally dead while living in Monaco as a billionaire. If you're here with me right now, subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It helps me feel like we're all in this together. I watched my sister Keisha flip the champagne tower at my wedding reception, and something inside me shattered along with those crystal glasses. The golden liquid pooled across the white marble floor of the Riverside Gardens venue, $23,000 down the drain in seconds. My mother rushed to Keisha's side, not to scold her but to ask if she'd hurt herself. My father stood there, arms crossed, looking at me like I'd caused this mess. "Simone, why do you have to make everything so fancy? You know Keisha gets overwhelmed." I was 28 years old, standing in my custom Vera Wang gown that I'd saved 3 years to afford, and my parents were making excuses for my 25-year-old sister's tantrum. This wasn't new. This was the story of my entire life, just dressed up in tulle and trauma. My husband Nathaniel grabbed my hand, his jaw tight, eyes blazing. He'd warned me. God, he'd warned me about inviting them. "Baby, we can elope," he'd said 2 months ago. "Your family's gonna ruin this." I'd insisted they'd behave at my wedding. I'd been catastrophically wrong. The guests, 200 of them, stood frozen, champagne dripping from their designer clothes. My college roommate Destiny's face said everything. "Girl, what the hell?" But the worst part? Keisha was smiling. That vindictive little smirk she'd worn since childhood whenever she destroyed something of mine. And my parents were already making a show of cleaning up, playing the martyrs, stealing my moment even in crisis. I felt Nathaniel's grip tighten. "We're leaving," he whispered. But I couldn't move. I stood there watching my family dismantle my joy like they'd done my entire life, and something cold settled in my chest. Something that whispered, "This ends tonight." The coordinator, a rail-thin woman named Edith, approached with tears in her eyes. "Mrs. Laurent, I'm so sorry, but we need to discuss the damages." Before I could respond, my father intercepted her. "Now hold on, this was an accident. My daughter Keisha has anxiety. Daddy, stop." My voice cut through the murmuring crowd like a blade. Everyone froze. I never raised my voice. Never pushed back. Good old Simone, always understanding, always accommodating. This wasn't an accident. Keisha did this on purpose, just like she accidentally shredded my college acceptance letters, just like she accidentally told my high school boyfriend I was cheating, just like she accidentally crashed her car into mine last year. My mother gasped, clutching her pearls. Literally clutching them. "Simone Marie Richardson, how dare you attack your sister on your wedding day?" "Attack her? Mama, she just destroyed $50,000 worth of decorations." The number hung in the air. I'd paid for this wedding myself, every penny. Nathaniel and I had postponed buying a house to afford this day. My mother's face hardened. "Well, if you weren't so busy showing off, trying to prove you're better than us." "Better than you?" I just wanted one day. One single day where I wasn't invisible. Keisha stepped forward, crocodile tears streaming. "I didn't mean to." The heel of my shoe caught. "You're wearing flats, Keisha." Silence. Devastating, damning silence. Then my father, "Simone, I think you need to calm down and think about family. Get out." Nathaniel's voice was quiet but absolute. "All 3 of you. Get out of my wife's wedding." The rest of the reception happened in a blur. Our friends rallied, the DJ kept playing, and Nathaniel held me as I smiled through gritted teeth. But inside I was planning. Calculating. My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from my parents demanding apology, Keisha playing victim on Facebook, extended family choosing sides. By midnight, I'd been disinherited from a family that had nothing to give anyway, and branded the villain in a story where I'd been the victim for 28 years. At our honeymoon suite in the Ritz-Carlton, Nathaniel found me on the balcony at 3 a.m., still in my wedding dress, staring at the city lights. "What are you thinking?" he asked, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders. "I'm thinking about that job offer in Singapore." His breath caught. 6 months ago, Nathaniel's tech company had offered him a position leading their Asian expansion. Triple his salary, full relocation package. We turned it down because of my family. Because I just made junior partner at my law firm. Because I thought I owed them proximity. Simone. I'm thinking about how I've spent my whole life trying to earn love from people who see me as a supporting character in Keisha's story. I turned to face him, and I'm sure he saw something in my eyes that hadn't been there before. Something hard and glittering and done. "I'm thinking that girl who got kicked around. She died tonight. And I'm ready to bury her." Nathaniel studied my face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Singapore's beautiful this time of year." "I was thinking somewhere with better tax laws," I said. "Switzerland maybe. Or Monaco." Monday morning I walked into Foster & Blythe law firm and resigned. My boss, Richard Foster, nearly choked on his coffee. "Simone, you're our best associate. We're planning to announce your senior partnership next month." "I appreciate everything, Richard, but I'm done." I'd spent 6 years building cases, winning impossible trials, billing 80-hour weeks. For what? A title? A corner office in a city where my family could ambush me at Trader Joe's? Richard leaned back, calculating. "Is this about salary? Because we can negotiate. It's not about money. It's about geography." I slid a letter across his desk. "I'm cashing out my 401k, my stock options, everything. Effective immediately." He read the letter, face darkening. "Simone, if this is about your wedding, maybe you need time to process." "I've processed for 28 years, Richard. I'm good." That week, Nathaniel and I moved like ghosts through our own life. We sold my car, a modest Honda that had survived Keisha's accident, to a dealer in Newark. We listed our apartment furnished on Craigslist, sold it in 48 hours to a cash buyer. We closed our joint bank accounts, opened new ones in banks our families had never heard of. I changed my phone number. Deleted Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, every digital footprint. Nathaniel did the same. We became phantoms. My parents called my old number 67 times that first week. Keisha sent emails ranging from apologetic to vicious. My Aunt Carol, the family's designated peacemaker, showed up at our old apartment to find strangers living there. "Where'd they go?" I heard she asked the new tenants. "No forwarding address," was the answer. What my family didn't know, what nobody knew except Nathaniel, was that I wasn't just running away. I was running towards something. 3 years earlier, a client named Douglas Hughes had paid his legal fees with something unusual: cryptocurrency advice and a small stake in his blockchain startup. At the time, Bitcoin was at $8,000. "Put in whatever you can afford to lose," Douglas had said. I'd invested $15,000, money I'd saved from side gigs, from the inheritance my grandmother left me that my parents didn't know about because Grandma Jean had seen who I really was. "Simone," she told me before she died, "you got something they don't. You got vision. When the time comes, you fly, baby girl. Don't look back." That 15,000 had grown to 1.2 million by the time Nathaniel and I boarded a one-way flight to Zurich. But that wasn't the real fortune. Douglas's company, NextGen Chain, had just been acquired by a major tech conglomerate. My small stake? $8.4 million pre-tax. Nathaniel's Singapore offer had evolved too. He'd negotiated an executive position with equity. Between his signing bonus, my cryptocurrency windfall, and our combined savings, we had $11 million and no ties to our old life. On the plane, Nathaniel squeezed my hand. "You okay?" I looked out at the clouds, feeling lighter than I'd felt in years. I'm about to find out who Simone really is when nobody's holding her back. What if your family, they won't find us, I said. We're not just moving, baby. We're disappearing. And we did. Monaco in October felt like a dream stitched from sunlight and possibility. We rented a penthouse in Fontvieille with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Mediterranean. The rent was obscene, 22,000 euros monthly, but money had become abstract, almost meaningless. I'd spent 28 years counting pennies while my parents funded Keisha's disasters. Now I ordered breakfast without checking prices. Nathaniel adjusted faster than I did. Within 2 weeks, he'd connected with tech entrepreneurs at a networking event at the Monte Carlo Bay Hotel. Baby, there's this startup accelerator, he'd said, eyes bright. They want to partner with someone who understands both American and Asian markets. So do it, I'd replied and meant it. I spent my days differently. I walked the Port Hercule watching yachts bigger than my childhood home glide past. I took French lessons from a patient tutor named Margot who never asked why an American woman had appeared in Monaco with no backstory. I studied international law, thinking about reinvention. But mostly, I breathed. I existed without justification. One morning, 6 weeks after we'd arrived, I was having coffee at Café de Paris when my phone rang. The new number, the one only Nathaniel had. Mrs. Laurent? The voice was crisp, professional. This is Diane Sellers from the Cook County Probate Court in Chicago. We're trying to locate next of kin for an estate matter. My blood froze. What kind of matter? It concerns your legal status, ma'am. There's been a petition filed declaring you legally deceased. I sat in the ornate café, phone pressed to my ear, while well-dressed Europeans sipped espresso around me, oblivious to the bomb detonating my past. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Diane Sellers sighed, the sound of someone who'd delivered bad news too many times. Ms. Richardson, excuse me, Mrs. Laurent. Your parents filed a petition to have you declared legally dead 7 weeks ago. They claimed you'd been missing for 6 months, provided statements from friends and colleagues confirming no contact, submitted evidence of abandoned property. 6 months? I've been gone 2 months. The petition claims longer with documentation. Apparently there's also a life insurance policy. My laugh came out sharp and bitter, startling a woman at the next table. Of course there is. How much? I can't disclose details, but I can tell you the court granted a preliminary hearing. If you don't contest within 30 days, the declaration becomes permanent. That was 2 weeks ago. I did the math. They'd filed the petition within days of my wedding. Maybe even before. This wasn't reaction. This was premeditation. What happens if it goes through? Your assets become part of your estate, distributed according to Illinois law. Without a will, that means your spouse receives a portion, but your parents and siblings also have claims. Your marriage might complicate things, but they're trying to take my money. The words tasted like ashes. Diane hesitated. I'm just informing you of the legal proceedings, Mrs. Laurent. What you do with that information is your choice. But you need to act fast. After she hung up, I sat there for 20 minutes, coffee growing cold. Then I called Nathaniel. Nathaniel arrived at the cafe within 15 minutes, his face carved from stone. I explained everything while he listened, a muscle jumping in his jaw. They filed before the wedding was even over, he said finally. They planned this. Keisha's tantrum was cover. Get everyone focused on the drama while they set up the real play. I pulled out my laptop, fingers flying. They thought I'd run away broke and desperate, maybe hiding in some cheap apartment in another state. They didn't count on international relocation. Or the money, Nathaniel added. They still think you're barely making it, Simone, who couldn't afford her own wedding. I found the petition online. Public record. Reading it felt surreal. My mother's statement. Simone became increasingly erratic after her wedding. She abandoned her apartment, her job, her family. We fear the worst. My father's testimony. She was always unstable, too proud to ask for help. We believe she may have harmed herself. Keisha's contribution made my skin crawl. My sister hated me. After I accidentally broke something at her wedding, she screamed terrible things. I think the guilt drove her away. I just hope she's at peace. The life insurance policy was $250,000. One I'd been required to maintain as part of my law firm benefits. My parents had somehow accessed the information, probably through the HR department. My mother's cousin worked there. They weaponized my disappearance, I whispered. Nathaniel pulled up another window. Look at this. Keisha's Instagram, public despite my blocking her. Photos from my wedding, captions painting her as the grieving sister. Still can't believe Simone's gone. I'd give anything to apologize for that night. 3,000 likes. Comments calling me cruel for abandoning my family. They're not just stealing money, I said slowly. They're stealing my narrative. I hired Petra Volkova, a Swiss attorney specializing in international estate law, who had the warmth of a glacier and the efficiency of a Swiss watch. Your case is unusual but not unprecedented, she said via video call, her office in Geneva sterile and modern behind her. You're clearly alive, which voids the entire petition. However, the defamation aspect is concerning. Can we sue them? Nathaniel asked from beside me. In Illinois? Absolutely. For fraud, defamation, attempted theft. But Mrs. Lone, may I ask, what do you actually want? I'd been thinking about that. I want them to know I survived them. That I'm not just alive, I'm thriving. I want them to feel every ounce of panic they tried to make me feel my entire life. Petra's smile was razor thin. Then we make you spectacularly, undeniably alive. And we do it publicly. The plan took shape over the next week. We'd file a counterpetition with evidence of my location, financial status, and timeline. But first we'd make noise. Nathaniel knew a tech journalist named James Morrison who wrote for TechCrunch and Bloomberg. One lunch meeting later, James was fascinated by our story. So you're telling me you went from Chicago lawyer to Monaco resident with an 8-figure net worth in 2 months? Cryptocurrency and startup equity, Nathaniel confirmed. My wife's investment strategy was aggressive and brilliant. And your family declared you dead to steal your insurance policy? James's eyes gleamed. This is incredible. Can I verify the documents? I slid a folder across the table. Everything you need. Petitions, statements, my current proof of life, financial records showing the money trail. You can even photograph me with today's newspaper if you want to be dramatic. James laughed. I want this story, but I need your permission to use names. Use everything, I said. I'm done hiding. The article dropped on a Tuesday morning. From legally dead to Monaco millionaire. How one woman's family tried to inherit her fortune while she was still alive. It went viral within hours. James had crafted it perfectly, sympathetic to me, devastating to my family, and filled with juicy details that made it irresistible. Screenshots of Keisha's Instagram grief posting beside photos of her at clubs. My parents' contradictory statements. The timeline showing they'd filed within a week of the wedding. By noon it had 200,000 shares. By evening, local Chicago news stations were picking it up. My phone, the old contacts list I'd preserved but never checked, exploded with messages. Former colleagues. Simone, oh my God, are you okay? College friends. Girl, I always knew your family was toxic, but this? Even Richard Foster. If you ever want to practice law again, We'd be honored to have you back. But the message that made my hands shake came from someone unexpected. My cousin Trent, my father's nephew who I'd always liked but never been close to. Simone, I need to tell you something about your grandmother's money. Call me. Please. I called. Trent answered on the first ring. Your parents told everyone Grandma Jean left you $15,000. He paused. That was a lie. She left you $275,000, plus her house in Evanston. They've been renting it out for 3 years, pocketing the income and forging your signature on documents. The world tilted. They what? I found the original will last month when my dad died. He was the executor. Paperwork. Simone, they've been stealing from you since Grandma died. That's probably why they panicked when you disappeared. They couldn't maintain the fraud without your signatures. Petra filed everything simultaneously. Contest of death declaration, lawsuit for fraud and defamation, and a separate action regarding the stolen inheritance. The Cook County Courthouse became a media circus. I didn't attend in person, didn't need to. My attorneys handled it while I watched from Monaco, sipping wine on my terrace, Nathaniel beside me. The hearing lasted 40 minutes. My parents' lawyer, a clearly overwhelmed public defender, had no defense against time-stamped photos of me in Monaco, banking records, my marriage certificate with Nathaniel's sworn affidavit. The judge, a stern black woman named Honorable Margie Moss, didn't hide her disgust. Not only is the petitioner clearly alive, but the evidence suggests this entire action was filed in bad faith with intent to defraud. I'm referring this matter to the state's attorney for potential criminal charges. My mother sobbed in the courtroom. My father sat stone-faced. Keisha wasn't even there. Rumor had it she'd fled to Atlanta to escape the backlash. But the best part? The part that made everything worth it? A video surfaced the next day. Someone had recorded my mother outside the courthouse, confronted by reporters. Mrs. Richardson, how do you respond to accusations you tried to steal your daughter's inheritance? I don't know what you're talking about. Simone was always dramatic, always making things up. So she made up being alive. The reporter pressed. She made up the cryptocurrency millions, the Monaco address, the forged signatures. She abandoned us. We raised her, sacrificed everything, and she just vanished like we meant nothing. After you destroyed her wedding and filed to have her declared dead? My mother's face crumpled, but not with shame. With rage. She was always selfish. Always putting herself first. We deserved that money. We're her parents. The criminal investigation moved faster than I expected. Turns out, forging signatures on real estate documents, filing fraudulent death petitions, and insurance fraud makes prosecutors very interested. By December, 3 months after I'd vanished, my parents were facing felony charges. The local news covered it religiously. Chicago couple charged after trying to inherit living daughter's fortune. I watched it all from Monaco, feeling disconnected, like I was observing strangers. Nathaniel worried I'd feel guilty. You sure you're okay with this? They're your parents. They stopped being my parents when they chose Keisha over me for the 1,000th time, I replied. This is just consequences finally catching up. My Aunt Carol, the peacemaker, called my new number somehow. Simone, please. Your mother's devastated. They could go to prison. They forged my signature for 3 years, Carol. They declared me dead for money. They destroyed my wedding and made me the villain. What exactly should I feel bad about? Their family. No, I interrupted. Family doesn't do this. Relatives do. DNA does. But family? Family shows up with love, not lawsuits. He hung up crying. I blocked the number. The settlement on my grandmother's estate came through. $275,000 plus 3 years of rental income, $84,000 plus penalties and interest. Combined with our existing fortune, Nathaniel and I crossed $15 million. But money wasn't the victory. The victory was the email from Keisha. Subject line, "I'm sorry. I almost deleted it. Almost. But curiosity won. Simone, I know you hate me. I deserve it. I've been jealous of you my entire life. You were smart, successful, beautiful. Everything came easy to you while I struggled. Mom and Dad always loved you more, they just felt sorry for me." I laughed out loud. The delusion was breathtaking. 6 months after my wedding, after my death, my resurrection, my reinvention, Nathaniel and I sat on our yacht in the Port Hercule. Yes, we'd bought a yacht. A small one, but still. "You happy?" Nathaniel asked, his arm around my shoulders. I looked at the Monaco sunset painting the Mediterranean gold and considered the question honestly. Was I happy? I'd cut off my entire family. My parents were awaiting trial, facing up to 5 years in prison. Keisha had disappeared into obscurity. I'd lost cousins, aunts, uncles, an entire network of people who'd chosen sides and none chose mine. But I'd also gained something immeasurable. Myself. The Simone who existed in Monaco wasn't the diminished, apologetic woman who'd walked down that aisle. This Simone had launched a consulting firm helping other professionals navigate international crypto investments. This Simone spoke 3 languages and owned property in 2 countries. This Simone woke up every morning without the weight of other people's expectations crushing her spine. "Yeah," I finally answered. "I'm happy." My phone buzzed. A message from Petra. The criminal trial had been postponed again, but the civil suit was settled. My parents had agreed to pay full restitution plus damages. $600,000 they'd never be able to afford, which meant wage garnishment for the rest of their working lives. "They're requesting a meeting," Petra had written. "They want to apologize in person." I showed Nathaniel the message. He raised an eyebrow. "You gonna go?" I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds before typing my response. "Tell them I'm dead." Then I blocked Petra's number, tossed my phone aside, and kissed my husband while the sun set on the life I'd left behind and rose on the one I'd built from ashes. Some people spend their whole lives trying to fix broken families. I'd spent one perfect moment letting mine go. And I'd never felt more alive.